Welcome, everybody, to your favorite day of the week. I'm Anthony Irwin, as always, joined here by Aaron Larsoul. Aaron, it is Friday. It's been a
That's what
nice,
they tell me.
quiet, nice, quiet week. Nothing really
hmm
going on across the
No.
NBA. Certainly nothing going on in my mentions. It has just been a perfectly pleasant and ordinary week. Right?
Yeah.
Do I have that right?
So, yeah, this has brought something to a head for me, and I'm going to yell at the Nets and yell at Kyrie in a second, um, because I'm a black man and because I'm also Jewish. So I'm going to start just
I
like
didn't know that. I
I'm going
had
to
no idea
cast
about the second part of that.
hellfire on everyone. Um, but it also because of also Josh Primo stuff and Ime, it made this like very obvious dichotomy for me, and it made me really sad. That my number one emotion when I thought about this is just I'm sad.
Mm-hmm.
The last because the last even if you just want to take this current season or if you want to go this calendar year, the games have been the quality of basketball and the games have been so good. And all of the other stuff surrounding the game, the news, Sarver
Has been
and
so
Primo
bad.
and Bridges and Udoka and Kyrie, it just makes me sad, man. It makes me sad
This
because
is
the
the
game
most
has been so
NFL-ish.
good.
Like, this is the most NFL-ish the NBA has really felt in a
And
little
and,
bit.
and you and I talk about this a
Minus
lot.
CTE. Like, we don't like it. I guess technically the perpetual separating factor here between the NBA and the NFL is like the NBA doesn't feel like it inherently puts their players in like potential lifelong danger. But this is the most that it's been like big flashy fireworks over here to get your attention from gross. Like it's
Yeah,
just
and
been
it's and it's
the other
and
part of this
it's
has been gross.
it's just been mishandled by every entity. I mean, if the Kyrie stuff, it's just been mishandled by every single entity that has had an opinion on it.
Wow.
Mostly him, right? Like mostly and specifically him. But the NFL has always felt kind of too big to fail, right? They can say and do basically anything.
Yeah.
And the NBA is getting in that territory if it's not already. But we talk about how and I think it's to the NBA's credit, and I don't know that it is the NBA has done this specifically, but the NBA's presence on social media and Twitter. There isn't the NBA Twitter, and there is a Black Twitter, and NBA Twitter and Black Twitter. Definitely, what is the thing? The Venn diagram, right, with the intersections of it. There definitely is a lot of intersection, and it has made the NBA has done a good job of being relevant in the off season and not in the games, and the stories and the memes and the funny stuff. Done a much better job than the NFL. And breaking news in the NBA means something more than breaking news in the NFL. Free agency movement is a different thing in the NBA, and so all of those things are good for the league. The problem, though, is then when stuff like this happens, it becomes an even greater issue on social media, and then you get everybody weighing in with I'm not going to say strange, differing opinions on all this sort of thing, and it perpetuates itself and becomes the story more than the games, even more so than the NFL does, because the NBA has done such a good job, and NBA fans have done such a good job, and NBA content creators have done such a good job of leveraging social media for relevancy in the NBA.
Yeah. There's a lot going on across all of this. And honestly, I don't want to spend the entirety of the show talking about this. I talked about it yesterday with Harrison. It has just completely swarmed my Twitter feed to this point because I was disappointed by the lack of outcry from players on what I consider potential hate speech.
No, not potential. No, not
Well,
potential.
yeah, I mean, the reason I say potential is Kyrie shared the documentary. So the documentary includes hate speech, right?
Kyrie
He
Irving,
didn't.
no. Kyrie Irving promoted the documentary. Period.
Right.
Even if he doesn't want to admit that, even if he doesn't think that's the case, he did. the movie and now the book that it is based on are
Yeah.
all #1 in their category
Yeah.
on Amazon.
Mhm.
He promoted it, even if he says he didn't. He did. Period.
And help get it there, right? Like
What do
he
you mean
helped get it
help?
there.
No. Not helped get it there.
Yeah.
Got it there. Period.
Fine. Yeah. But when I guess when I say, you know, potentially, because he's saying there are parts of it that he doesn't agree with, and he says there are parts of it that he agrees with.
Yeah. Which?
So until he like comes out and identifies the parts that he agrees with, I can't specifically say that he is offering up hate speech, right? That's a slight, it could be a difference without distinction, but it makes it so I don't get sued. So but still,
Cheers.
yeah, this has been the week I've had. So still though, that's as close to just flat out spreading hate speech as somebody can get that can't be level or can still be labeled potential.
No. It's not as close as you can get. He spread hate speech.
Yeah.
Period.
Fine.
He spread it. Whether
yeah.
it doesn't mean he said hate speech. It doesn't mean he used hate speech. But he spread hate speech. Period.
Yeah, that's fair. That's the thing, is that like he spread a documentary and he spread awareness, promoted awareness about a book that contains hate speech, right? That's what we're saying.
He
here.
signal boosted, he elevated, he promoted, yes.
Yeah. And so like my thing all day and all week has been that if this was on a different topic, I feel like there would be more players speaking up on behalf of the victims of the hate speech that's contained in the documentary, you know. And you know, Donovan Mitchell, he had a tweet, he had a quote, and I'm paraphrasing, but he essentially said to Utah Jazz fans, with whom he obviously disagreed vehemently on several topics, but he said essentially that if you can't get yourself to care about off-court issues that affect black men, then you can't claim to love me as a member of the Utah Jazz, because you love me, the basketball player, but you don't love me, the person, right? And I completely agree. I completely agree with the sentiment about that.
That is generally after there have been some unfortunate incidents with the Jazz and race, including with Russ, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but go ahead. Yes.
But so like I completely agree with the sentiment, right? That if you can't get yourself to care about the victim of, you know, racial injustice, then you can't claim to care about the person, as that person is potentially the victim of that racial injustice, right? And so like if we're following along those terms though, I've always thought that like this is what he's asking for is empathy, right? All he's basically saying is,
you're saying what Spider's asking for.
Oh yeah, all Donovan is asking for is empathy. We don't look alike. We don't have the same experiences. Right. Just try caring about the shit that my people have gone through, right? Just like when you know, I used this example on the Lowdown either last night or the night before, where I'm Mexican, and when Mexicans were getting put into cages, all I asked for was for people to care. Just say like, hey, that sucks. We should probably stop doing that, right? And I think here is where, by not speaking up, large swaths of NBA players, I think to this point, Brooke Lopez has retweeted a Kareem column.
Robin.
Oh yeah, Robin. Yeah. Robin retweeted Kareem's column, and Kevin Durant came out today and said this is, you know, he said, I'm against anti-Semitism. And then, you know, I think Damian Lillard liked the tweet.
Well, he also hold on. KD also said before that he said that when he tried to clean it up afterwards on Twitter. What he also said during the press conference was, I think that like
could have been taken two ways.
We as an organization just probably should have stayed out of it.
Yeah,
or like not said anything.
Right. So, and which can be taken a couple ways, right? He can mean as Kyrie, as a part of the organization, shouldn't have taken it here. And it can also mean that he was disappointed that the Nets got involved at all and eventually suspended Kyrie.
Why is it? Okay.
So all
Yeah, go
all
ahead,
I'm
finish.
saying
Yeah,
though,
finish,
like if I
finish.
could just finish the point,
Yeah,
like
finish.
why I was so disappointed with the lack of public outcry on this subject is because if players are going to ask for empathy on subjects that affect them, then they have to share and meet us halfway with that empathy on matters that don't affect them. You know, not all these players are Jewish. Not all these players are all of Jewish faith.
As far as I know, there's one.
Yeah.
Denny Avdia is the only Jewish player in the NBA.
Yeah,
currently.
and so like that's when I said it was disappointing that I didn't see any players, standing out and standing against what Kyrie was sharing. That's all I'm asking for is the exact empathy that you're asking from fans on topics that don't affect them. You have to share that same empathy on a topic that doesn't affect you. That's it. It seems like a fair trade here, but
Well-
for some reason, especially in my mentions, that's a bridge too far, and
All right,
that's
so
really
this is
disappointing.
this is very simple for me, but it's also complicated because, as I said earlier, I'm a black man. I am also Jewish. My grandfather, my mother's father, was born in Germany, and as Hitler was coming to power, a Jewish man, my grandfather, as Hitler was coming to power, was able to get out of Germany and come to America. I have been to Germany a couple times, and have found have broken into, basically climbed a fence to get into cemeteries and grave sites where I have found my family name on gravestones that were killed during the Holocaust. So, and I'm not saying this is Kyrie's position specifically. I'm not saying it's anybody's position specifically, other than whoever wrote that book and narrated that movie.
Yeah.
If you don't think the Holocaust happened and 6 million Jews died, fuck you.
Mhm.
That's it. And I'm not saying that specifically to Kyrie. However, why is it so hard for anybody? Now this is about Kyrie specifically, but anybody. Why is it so difficult to say, damn, I believe the Holocaust was real. I denounce any form of anti-Semitism. Yes, there were maybe like and again, I'm also a black man. So I have no issue with Kyrie wanting to do a deep dive, however he feels that is helpful or necessary or useful, on the history of black people, of his people, of my people. I'm with it. But why does that have to include Holocaust denial? Why does that have to include anti-Semitic stuff? Why does it have to include Jews are Satan worshipers? That is the part that really bothers me. And why is it so hard, including for KD or anybody, to say, I don't fuck with any of that anti-Semitic shit? No, I don't believe any of that.
Yeah.
The rest of it, fine. Go do your deep dive, learn your history, Kyrie, however you want to do it. That's fine. But when somebody asks you point blank, especially after you share something that is anti-Semitic, say, are you anti-Semitic? Do you believe this? Why is it so hard to say no?
And so there was some pushback on Twitter that I noticed where people were upset that players were getting asked about this, and to be frank, predominantly black players were getting asked about this, to which I would say the league's predominantly black.
Right.
So we can ask Austin Reeves and we can ask Matt Ryan for their thoughts. But like there was a questioning of the questioning, like why is Devin Booker getting asked about this? Why is non-Nets players getting asked about this? And part of the reason that they're getting asked about it, in my opinion, is because they aren't saying anything about it on Twitter, and we don't say anything about it on Twitter.
The NBA also. I mean, finally,
yeah, like the NBPA,
sort of, but,
the NBPA like didn't say Kyrie's name. The Nets finally did with their second.
We could all have been
statement.
done with this if Kyrie had just said, you know what, like I shared it because I thought some of it was cool. I saw it, but like, man, when I looked at it, when I really dove into it, this, that, and the other, I don't mess with that. And he
still hasn't identified the stuff that he doesn't mess with, by the way.
Silver, the Nets, Joe Tsai, everybody else. Joe Tsai, he was the best at first because at least he mentioned Kyrie. Oh, it's bigger than basketball. Is it? Well, then why the fuck is he playing?
2 nights later, he's playing. Or a night later, he's playing, yeah.
We could have been done with this if Kyrie had just said, there was a few things, but man, I didn't know all the anti-Semitic stuff. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have posted that. I don't believe none of that. We could be done with this already.
Right. Right.
Or if anybody else, or if the NBA had said, no, immediately, nope. Kyrie, you can't do that. You're done. We would all have been done with this already.
The next part of this that I kind of want to get into is, so he's apparently going to meet with David Stern. Could you imagine if David Stern was still in?
David Stern would have banished him to Middle Earth.
Jeez. But he's going to meet with Adam Silver, and they are going to have this conversation. And, Le Batard and Amin were talking about this, and Le Batard asked, is that meeting for Kyrie's career? Is Kyrie's career on the line on it? And Amin thinks so. Dan seems to think so. I look, call me cynic, call me a cynic and all of that. But there are plenty of players who have done worse who are going to get second and third chances because they're supremely talented. Kyrie is that kind of talented, and somebody is going to give him that job. That's why I wrote for Silver Screen and Roll yesterday that the Lakers can't be that team.
No. The Lakers will not be that team. I'll tell you now.
I hope so.
The Lakers. No. Not hope so. I'm telling you, the Lakers will not be that team.
I know. But Aaron, we can't say that definitively. Until they aren't.
I can say that definitively. I don't know if. So part of it is, this is really complicated because in the Players Association, in the collective bargaining agreement, basically there's a double jeopardy clause. So if the league punishes you, the team can't. And if the team punishes you, the league can't. Mm-hmm. Or they agree not to, I guess is probably more accurate. So once there was the $500,000 that has since been returned because the Anti-Defamation League was like, nah, fuck you. We don't believe any of this shit.
He sent your money. Dad. He sent his stepmom. He didn't even go and meet with them.
Keep your money. And by the way, if a charity organization is telling you keep your money, then that tells you how they feel about it.
Yeah.
So it's complicated, because the meeting was established theoretically or agreed to between Kyrie and Adam Silver before he was suspended by the Nets. So now that he's been actually suspended by the Nets, because the language in the $500,000, whatever that was going to be, didn't read as a fine. It was never, the language of it was never that this is a consequence to that. You are being fined officially, and therefore the league can't do anything about it. Now that so that meeting was going to happen before the league knew this, or maybe they did, but it hadn't been announced yet. Now that the Nets have officially suspended him, the league can't really do anything. So I don't really know what the Adam Silver, he can't say you're suspended or fined. So I don't know what the purpose is of Adam Silver, the meeting at this point, right? It's going to be, you have to go apologize to Adam Silver. Okay. For what? Because he doesn't have the power to do anything at this point.
This gets to, I think, a central issue in the NBA right now is that Adam Silver apparently is a big fan of states' rights because he just keeps on ushering off responsibility to these teams to handle their shit. And it's fine if those teams handle their shit and all these teams were on the same wavelength. But in the case of Ime Udoka, this guy is suspended for the entirety of a year without pay. Mm-hmm. By the way, while an investigation is apparently still going on, and now he's going to coach apparently the Brooklyn Nets.
All right, so let me say one last thing about the Kyrie stuff, and then let's get to that. The other part of this that really has been disturbing to me is that it is pitting Black people against Jewish people. And that really, obviously, because
which has been a tactic historically, by the way. This has been a tactic that,
and for the two groups that have historically probably had it the worst of anyone.
Yeah.
And have a lot of shared experience, frankly. That has been really bothersome to me. And it goes back to, I don't have any problem with Kyrie wanting to learn whatever he wants to learn about the history of Black people, his people, my people. But that doesn't have to come at the expense of Jewish people. And it's such a strange human phenomenon, especially online. Basically everything online is just strange, but
Trauma comparison.
Correct. Like,
Yeah.
it has sucked for both groups pretty awfully.
Yeah.
And I don't like and the group that Black people are generally looking towards as the reason for why we have had it so not great is just like generic white guy, right? European generic white guy. And they are the ones that are using this as a let's pit one group against each other. So that is a part of it that has also really bothered me. Again,
Well,
I
think
do your research. That's fine. And learn about the Black experience, learn about the history, and go wherever you want to go. But the group that you feel has been the oppressor, generally speaking, is the one that is trying to pit you against the group that you are not denouncing anti-Semitism against.
Yeah,
And by the way, if this was, and I'm not gonna like, if pick a white guy, pick American white guy in the NBA. I don't care who it is.
Gordon
I'll
Hayward.
use Joe Harris, not because for any reason other than he's on the same team as Kyrie.
Okay.
Right? Like for no reason. I'm not saying Joe Harris believes this, thinks none of that.
Right.
Pick any random white guy, but I'll use Joe Harris because he's on the same team as Kyrie. If Joe Harris had just shared a Birth of Nation, like that had all kinds of anti-Black language, rhetoric, slavery tropes, all of that, what do you think the reaction would be?
That's all. That's exactly
Joe Harris
what
would never play again. He would never play again.
Right.
Well, let's look at Myers Leonard. Right. Myers Leonard. I mean, to be fair, Myers Leonard actually
said the word,
a slur. Right. Myers Leonard has never been heard from again.
Yeah.
So why is this different?
Aaron, I don't know. Like this has been the part that really kind of frustrates me, and it goes back to the point that I tried to start the show with, where it's like we suck at empathy. So like you talked about the trauma comparison and how, you know, various cultures pit each other against each other for, no, it's been way harder to be Mexican these last few years than it's been to be Black, and it's been way harder. And then women are like, hello, like, right. You know, and it's just like, how about instead of doing that comparison shopping, how about instead of doing all of that, we actually find commonalities in those experiences, and we try to find a way to make it so that we don't continue to experience those things.
How about let's make it better for all of the people that are?
Yeah, like why is it like this isn't some totem pole that we have to like climb past people on? You know, why can't we just work together and try to make this thing better for each other? And part of that solution, in my opinion, always has to involve empathy, and we suck at it. We're so bad at it. I tweeted this last night, but you know, some of the noise that made me the saddest over the course of yesterday were the people who were in my mentions and my DMs who were saying like, "Are you Jewish? Why do you care?" It's like, what? If that's honestly how we're going to function as a society, I don't want to be a part of it. Like, I will buy a fucking ranch out here in the boonies. I will turn off my internet and I will say,
no, that scares me. That scares me because you're passable as a white dude, so that scares me. It seems like you're going to form your own militia and have.
I know. I will just go off and I will enjoy the rest of my life as not a part of the society that doesn't care about each other. Like that's I would rather.
Off grid from a white looking dude. Off grid is.
I will stop going out into the sun. I will.
That makes me nervous.
I will start using sunscreen.
Let's get to this Ime stuff.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the Ime thing is I think shown another layer of I think Adam Silver being a weak commissioner. At some point here, Adam is going to have to do his job. Like at some point here, he's going to have to like. Yes, you're right. They have this double jeopardy approach to things, and he's hoping that these teams kind of handle it themselves. But when one team has a very different stance on how to handle these things than another team, and is desperate enough to employ, granted, a good coach in Ime Udoka, if they are desperate
situation too.
If they're willing to, like, to me, the red flag that I think people should be paying a little more attention to than they have is how willing Boston is for him to just be their headache now. Like just go,
as long as we don't have to pay him, we don't need compensation.
Yeah. Like just I'd like, you know what? Go over there. You are their problem.
Especially in the division, by the way.
Right. Yeah. And this is a coach who just led them to a championship series. This is just like, go over there.
And has
Stay over there.
And has a unique experience with the Nets because he was just there as an assistant coach.
Right.
So yeah.
I just think, and now you made a good point on Twitter that the move hasn't been announced yet. It's been reported. It's been widely reported he's their coach, but they've played games with Jacque Vaughn as their head coach. They have not made any formal announcement of Ime Udoka. Jacque Vaughn hasn't made it known that this is bullshit, that I'm an intern.
And by the way, the only dude I feel bad for in any of this is Jacque Vaughn.
Right. He's just like, what?
I'm here I am interim again. And now I have to answer questions about Kyrie and KD and Ben Simmons, by the way.
Yeah.
I have to answer all the questions for these dudes. None of them are trying, and nope, we can't guard anyway, so I'm not gonna. And you've already decided I'm coaching for one game and have announced somebody else.
Right.
Jacque Vaughn should go away. He just needs to he'd be like, no, I'm not doing this.
Yeah. Find somebody who will.
I ain't doing this. I feel he's the only dude in all of this I feel bad for.
Why? I have a theory on why Udoka hasn't been made their official head coach, but I'm interested for you given your experiences.
So 2 possibilities here. Or I think there are 2. I mean, there's infinite possibilities. By the way, Max Christie has been assigned to South Bay. So he will not. It does not look like he will be playing today. He will not be in the rotation tonight. There's actually a Lakers basketball game tonight, which we.
Dude, I'm telling you, I was putting together the clip that I put on Twitter of Harrison and me reacting or remembering Matt Ryan's shot.
Yeah,
Wednesday night.
Mm-hmm.
I initially was going to tweet that it was on Sunday night because that shot feels roughly 37 years ago.
Yes. You know what?
That shot feels like it took place last year.
It's probably interchangeable at this point with the Austin Reeves shot in Dallas last year and the Danny Green shot in Dallas, whatever that was, 3 years ago.
Any and all Lakers basketball feels like it took place at least 15 years ago. Yeah.
So I think there are 2 most likely possible scenarios. So there is Steve Nash. I said this on Twitter and I told you, I don't know if I said it on Twitter, but I can say it now that he's actually gone. Steve Nash was fired a week or 10 days before he was actually gone. The entire NBA knew it. So
was that before or after he did the Wall Street Journal profile? Because
that was no, those things. I mean, look, I'm not an author. I'm not a writer. You are much more than I do. So I don't. But you don't. I don't know that you do features. But these things take. Yeah, no, those are things that are weeks, if not months. In
I just want to know if while he's doing that interview, he knows how this season is.
Yeah, how about the author? I'm posting it literally on the day he gets fired. Man, fuck. What did I do? What have I been doing the last 6 weeks? Fuck, man. I wonder if he got more traction or less because of that. I don't know.
I mean, it went viral, so
yeah, I don't know. But that had to be very frustrating.
It was also so fitting for this week. It was so fitting for this week because one of the main quotes in their promotion of the profile is Steve Nash saying the most important part of my coaching and the biggest thing I hope to bring to my approach here is empathy. And there's
actually, let me amend my statement. I said the only person I feel sorry for is Jacque Vaughn. And Steve Nash is in that group too.
But it's just it's so weak for how this week.
Get the fuck out of there.
It's so perfect for how this week has played out. And what my mentions have been when this coach was you know what, the most important thing is empathy. Steve, you're fired. It was just. I mean, it was such
fired, but it was not. It was not against his wishes.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
All right. So he's been gone for a lot longer than he's actually been gone for a lot longer than he's technically been gone. So either Brooklyn is lying, right? And we came to this Udoka thing now once Steve is gone, or he's been gone for a week, 10 days, or even longer than that, frankly. And they've been doing and they knew that Udoka was next, and they've been doing their due diligence. and then it gets out that he's going to be
He's
the
the front
coach,
runner.
like not the front runner, and then like it's imminent, right? It, like
Yeah.
everybody's decided, and then Shams and Woj and Haynes all basically say the Celtics don't care, like beat it. They don't want anything, just beat it. So either, as it stands now, either this is the two options that it seems to me. Either they are now taking the real time to do their due diligence, and because they couldn't have talked to everybody they needed to talk to do any due diligence, in the day or two. So either they are doing their due diligence finally, and that's going to take a while, in which case I don't know why it got out that he was imminent, like 24 to 48 hours.
Kind of hard to do diligence when you've made the decision already.
Or that was kind of a trial balloon, and they're now going, oh shit, we probably shouldn't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Or they are now just starting to do their due diligence after they decided to let go of Nash, and they just decided to do their due diligence, and they found something they don't like.
I was also thinking, like, my theory also had to do with the league saying, hey, whoa, like,
yeah,
why not? We have this unofficial, like, policy here that doesn't do double jeopardy, but if we have teams undermining punishments of other teams, then we kind of sort of have to have a central punishment system that overrides the team's rights here.
The problem with that, though, is they have to officially ask the Celtics for permission to talk to him, to Udoka, and therefore the league knows it. And so if that's the case, the league would say, you're not doing this because of X, Y, and Z a week ago or 2 weeks ago, in which case Brooklyn does not let it get leaked to Woj and Shams and Chris that this is what they're going to do.
Yeah, it's weird.
I think this is more of a Brooklyn thing, that either somebody leaked it and they're actually doing their due diligence now as opposed to before when they probably should have, or they found something they don't like.
All right, here's a tinfoil hat that's mostly joking.
My favorite Anthony.
You ready for this?
I am indeed.
Jacques Vaughn leaked it and knew how everybody was going to react, and is like, this is what you get, assholes.
I
Clearly
mean,
kidding.
The real tinfoil hat thing is that they wanted to have the introductory press conference and take a couple questions, and then actually like put this all on Ime, and that he's going to have to answer all the questions instead of having to answer questions about Kyrie.
Well, they could just do the Knicks thing and not have any outside media at Ime's presser.
I don't think that would go well.
Oh, of course it wouldn't go well.
I do not think that would go well.
And it shouldn't have gone well to this point with the Knicks either.
I do not think. Yes, but that's different. But that's different because.
But like this
is
why
I don't want to have to answer any questions is one thing. I don't want to have to answer any questions when there are multiple current scandals is a different thing.
But like this is why I've been pretty heated, or I've been pretty adamant about, hey, what the Knicks are doing with media is bad because it sets a precedent that the Nets can now follow and be like, yeah, no, we're not going to answer questions.
So there's a different, but yeah, I agree with you.
I agree. There's a
difference between like generic, I just don't want to have to answer for the fact that we've been bad for 30 years.
Well, I mean,
here are active scandals.
Yeah,
different things.
Well, but like, is like they're tampering with Jalen Brunson potentially? It's a basketball scandal, but it's still something that needs questioning about.
But this policy for the Knicks, it goes back much farther than that.
Sure. And I'm saying, like, the reason that I think it's bad policy is because it sets precedent that allows Brooklyn to do this.
It absolutely is bad policy. Oh, absolutely it is.
Like, this is why I've said that the league needs to step in and make sure that policy is not okay, so that when something like this arises, because we always knew something like this was probably going to, not this specifically, but like we knew that some team would have an opportunity to have a presser that they don't necessarily want to answer questions in. And now that precedent has been okayed and implicitly by the league, they can just enact the policy. That's within their rights now.
Well, so this brings up another like a bigger conversation is I don't know what the league is supposed to do like for this kind of stuff or tampering or whatever, because sure, you can fine people, but there are limits to what the
Yeah.
fines can be, right? You can fine the Knicks for not, because there are rules in place that the NBA has for organizations and for players, right? For media availability things. One of the secrets of the NBA is if you have a practice, then people have, not everybody, but people have to be available to the media. So if you say something is not technically a practice,
Yeah.
and you can
You
have
don't have
guys
to
or
do
not,
media
it's not
stuff.
mandatory. You can have guys come in and work on stuff or not.
Well,
Whatever
like
they decide, then you don't have to, if you don't have an official practice, and this is why Harrison used to track this sort of thing. If you don't have an official practice, you don't have to make people available to the media. But I don't know what they're
like
supposed to do. You find guys, and who cares?
Interestingly today, because I would imagine LeBron especially is probably going to would get, and will probably get asked about it tonight at the game.
Yes,
But
I would guess so.
he probably is going to get asked about Kyrie Irving. This is somebody who he has vouched support for in the past. He is somebody who, LeBron is kind of sort of on the record for wanting on the Lakers, if at all possible. And if not on the record, but certainly, that is well reported territory there. He could have been asked at shoot around about this situation, but he and Anthony Davis were excused from shoot around. So to your point, if it's an official practice and those people don't participate in that official practice, they don't have to answer questions. And I find the timing of all of that interesting. Can we talk about Lakers stuff?
Yes, please, let's.
All right, let's talk about Lakers stuff. So the Lakers are streaking. They have a 2-game winning streak. Matt Ryan is the best shooter in the NBA
Maybe
history.
NBA history.
Yeah.
Right? It's Matt Ryan, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and like Ray Allen, or
Can we
Reggie
just
Miller
talk
or
about
Larry
the
Bird?
shot? Can we just talk about the shot that he made? Like, he essentially started at what would, be the equivalent of like the line of scrimmage, ran like a corner fade, got both his feet in bounds, then turned,
Got him down.
yeah, got both his feet in bounds, turned, and then threw it through the uprights for 3 points. Like, that was just incredible. I know I talked about this with Harrison. I know I tweeted out the clip a second ago with from the show in which we both marveled at the shot. But that's one of the tougher shots that I think I've ever seen. That isn't like a lucky shot, Like there are like heaves from half court that you're saying like, okay, yeah, that was like after the game, for example. I think Anthony Davis, like right after the whistle, shot the ball 60 feet and made it, right? Which is right.
Yeah, that
the
was
1-3 that AD has made
right? Yeah.
recently is a 60-footer.
No, I think it may have even been farther than that.
So, but yeah, I just that shot that he made.
Shout out to my pink shirt making it on Spectrum, by the way. After the
Sabrina, I know it's weird for me too. It is super weird, and it never ends well. Like the last couple of years, it has not ended well when I am happy about the Lakers. But yeah, this
Matt, if I get my feet down and I get a look at it, it's gonna go in.
He's such a shooter. Like, he thinks about the game. Like, like cornerbacks are like this in football, and hitters kind of have to be like this in baseball, where like you just have to have unworldly confidence in yourself because of the odds that are stacked against you. Every time that you shoot, like a good shooter, it misses more often than they make.
Right.
A great shooter misses from 3-point range more often than they make.
Yeah, I mean the best guy ever shoots 42% from 3.
Right. Some of the best hitters in the history of the sport,
right?
Are like
you're out
300 and low.
You're out 7 times out of 10. Yeah.
Yeah. And then quarterbacks get they get scored on more often than they stop those plays, and so, I just find the way that he approaches the sport really interesting from like a psychology aspect of this stuff. But I told Harrison that this feels like the most sustainable that Lakers' success could potentially be. Right? This feels like they've kind of found something here with Russell Westbrook coming off of the bench and not closing games. Lonnie Walker, like I can tell
not necessarily closing games.
I don't need to see.
Didn't he close? I think he closed.
He didn't close overtime.
No, not in the last game, but the game before, I think he did close.
Yeah,
He did not
well,
close the last game.
it might be a game by game thing.
That's what I mean.
But
Yes, not necessarily closing.
at least
Yes.
we know that it's an option that he doesn't have to close those games.
Correct. Yeah.
Lonnie Walker is so legit that my dad already knows his name. Like
Oh.
my dad is the worst person when it comes to knowing players' names. And today we were driving because we were going to pick up lunch, and he was like, "Yeah, this Walker guy looks legit," and I was like, "What?" So Lonnie might have his like jersey in the rafters by the time this is all said and done. But yeah, what do you think about the premise of this Lakers success right now feeling sustainable?
I do think so, and especially because in Wednesday specifically, both guys, LeBron and AD, were both kind of beat up, right? LeBron with the non-COVID illness, and he's got the foot soreness, and AD's back obviously doesn't feel great. I do think that the Lakers have found something with Russ coming off the bench. And I think that, so it's interesting because the Lakers are playing at, I think they're second or third in pace, and playing obviously at a faster pace than last year. And you would think that is kind of counter to what LeBron does. LeBron likes to walk the ball up more. He can play in transition, but he likes to walk the ball up more and be able to dissect in the front court, use his brain, use his passing. And LeBron, even though the Lakers are playing faster than they did last year, LeBron's front court touches are identical to what they were last year. So it is the pace is, you would think like, oh, LeBron's going to slow it down. The pace is coming from other guys, and other guys are being empowered to handle the ball more. Coach Ham said he wanted to play fast. The Lakers are playing fast. So I think there is more, like, there's more meat on the bone either, because LeBron he's been good, but he hasn't been his normal efficient self. So I think that there is much more meat on the bone for the Lakers offense, and the defense obviously has been fantastic. So I think the defense can hover around this level and the offense can pick it up some. And then I think you've really got something. I think that Pat Bev has been terrible. Like, let's call it what it is. Pat Bev has been terrible, but I think it matters that he starts because the one thing that he does, as long as he can guard other primary ball handlers, he's going to put pressure on those guys. He's going to make their life uncomfortable, even if he's not good offensively, which basically means he's making catch and shoot jumpers because he's not going to do much else. As long as he puts pressure on the ball, that's going to disrupt the opposition early. So I think the calls for him not to start are premature. I think it's important that he still starts. But with Troy Brown starting, the Lakers have a more normal sized group of starters, which allows Pat Bev to take the primary ball handler defensive role, and him putting that pressure and disrupting, I think, is really important. The Austin Reeves, I think I would like to see Austin come in with Russ as the first subs together, because I don't think Austin should start necessarily, but I do think it's important to have Austin in with LeBron, with AD, because when Austin is one of the best players on the floor, his offensive role gets weird and he tries to do too much. So I like him when he's playing as more of a connector with better talent around him. So in those moments where Russ comes in, and I even agree with this, that we should probably be staggering Russ and LeBron a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But that hasn't been the case so far. But I do think it's important to have those Austin minutes, and whether it's with Russ or with AD and with LeBron, so he can play that connector role instead of kind of having to do too much as a facilitator. That is an oversized role for him at this point in his career, in my opinion.
Yeah, Pat's play, he made some big plays at the end of the game, just creating extra opportunities and doing Pat things. Some things that kind of make me a little nervous is, him defensively, he's fouling a little too much for my liking.
Yes.
And he's hesitating offensively, which
He's not making shots, and
Well,
he's not
right.
making catch and shoot shots, and that is his utility
Well,
offensively.
But like, so one of the smarter things that Chuck ever said, and it always just kind of stands out
As in
to me.
TNT Chuck?
Yeah, TNT
All right,
Chuck.
okay, yeah.
He was watching Kobe play, and he saw Kobe like pump fake under the rim, and he was like, "Oh man, Kobe's moving into the next kind of phase of his career." And everybody was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I remember that pump fake where there's nobody there.
Right.
Where there's nobody
you start
there.
Seeing ghosts.
Yeah, you start hearing steps.
Yeah, half, like your
Yeah,
percent diminished.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I see this with Pat, where some of his shots he's more open than he actually than he thinks he is, and you see that slight hesitation.
Pat is
where
turning down too many shots.
Yeah, he's kind of like, I don't know if it's a confidence thing or if it's a hearing steps thing, but regardless of what it is, if that's not what Pat's doing out there, then Pat isn't like doing the things that Pat needs to do to stay out there. And in which case, I would rather have Austin Reeves, who's bigger and a better defender so far this season. I
think the track record of Pat as a shooter, as a catch and shoot shooter, like I understand the concern because the team is shooting whatever it is. I think it's 28.6% from three on the year right now. But I think it's maybe a week early to worry about Pat the shooter, and because he has a track record, and frankly, Austin doesn't. Right, Austin.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying.
For the fact that he's a white guy and it like kind of looks pretty clean, it doesn't go in.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that Austin would be providing shooting. Like I'm saying that Austin provides more on defense, and he's bigger. So
I don't agree that Austin provides more on defense. He is bigger though.
He's like 6'4". Pat's
he's bigger than Pat.
So,
I don't agree that he provides more on defense yet though. Yeah. But I think the connector stuff that he does is very important on both offensively and defensively. I think that the one thing that Pat really can do, to start the year, he was seen more as a wing, right? A 3-and-D wing, as opposed to a point guard, defensively, specifically. And now that Russ is coming off the bench and Troy Brown, who is a wing size guy and can guard threes, is starting, it lets Pat shift down more into a natural role for him, which is guarding point guards. And I do think there's a lot of value in just him harassing them for the first, 4, 5, 6 minutes of the game to kind of prevent the opposition from getting into an offensive rhythm early. And that's not something that Austin can do.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's fair. When I say I think Austin provides more on defense, I see Walker in that role as being able to kind of hound the ball. And then you slide Austin into more of like a connective tissue defensive player. But regardless, like we're talking about, I think it's a smaller issue than what I actually want to talk about here, which is Anthony Davis and what he's doing defensively. I don't think it's getting enough. Like, this is crazy to say that a Laker is not getting enough attention nationally, but what Anthony Davis is doing with this defense is fucking insane. Correct. It's absolutely incredible. Because if you look at this roster, like LeBron is, I think, still can be a plus size, a plus.
Did you say a plus size? You got LeBron doing Lane Bryant lingerie ads. LeBron's a plus size. I'm telling him you said that.
He's my wash jeans king. Like, he's just like
you got LeBron doing all body types matter lingerie ads now.
I'm gonna get so much shit for that because as I say, like, plus size, my like third chin is like.
Hey, and by the way, like, I agree. Shout out to all men and women of all body shapes and sizes and types. Everyone is beautiful in their own way. Just, I did not expect you coming out here saying LeBron is doing Lane Bryant ads. I did not expect that with my Friday almost afternoon. I'm going to tell you that.
And this is water. Like, this isn't even a cocktail.
Anyway, this isn't.
All right. So, yeah, LeBron.
All body types are beautiful, LeBron.
Exactly. But LeBron is probably like one of the few. LeBron, maybe Pat, maybe Lonnie. Like there aren't very many plus defenders on this roster, and the Lakers have a top 5 defense, and it's obscene. And I think Darvin and his staff deserve.
Pat is a plus defender. LeBron is
Can be.
maybe not possession to possession, but is, and Anthony Davis is the destroyer of worlds. Which is your point.
He's just incredible, and AD deserves a lot of credit for this. I think Darvin deserves some credit for this, and his staff for putting him in I think better positions.
You're not going to give yourself credit for banging the AD must play center at all times drum.
I was gonna finish. I was gonna save the best for last.
Get there, okay.
But I think the drop coverage has allowed, and Alex Regler wrote about this for Silver Screen. I've talked about it a few times on the various pods. But the drop coverage that the Lakers are utilizing is basically keeping AD in the paint and just swallowing up the most important territory on a basketball court. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I am going to say that like Anthony Davis playing fucking center makes him the best defensive presence he can possibly be. Like this is all I've been asking for.
Well,
so thank you. Thank you, Anthony Davis.
No,
you're all welcome. Okay, everybody listening to this, you're all welcome.
Kind of. I think it's Anthony Davis's versatility and his ability to do all sorts of things makes him the best defensive presence that he can be.
But he's able to focus on this, given the way that they're approaching this.
Yes, but here's the thing. I mean, Kawhi, I don't know if Kawhi is still in the NBA. Is he? Maybe. But
he's quietly quitting.
But let's say just hypothetical. Well, and the Lakers play quote unquote at the Clippers coming up here shortly. But let's say in a playoff series, and you've got Kawhi and Paul George healthy, which maybe is a stretch. I don't want him like fighting with Zoo as a center, right? I want him and LeBron like, sorry guys, you're guarding Kawhi and PG. Mm-hmm. So I think center is by far the most important defensive position on a basketball court. I almost said basketball floor. I'm channeling Brandon Ingram, who said everything he said was something happening on the basketball floor. So I'm channeling BI. But I want LeBron and AD guarding those two guys in their wings. Center is the most important defensive position. Point guard or lead ball handler initiator is the most important offensive position. So I think it is not the fact that he's just a center. I think it is that he is a center, but can also do the wing stuff that makes him so important. And his malleability based on, I mean, he hasn't played. I tweeted this yesterday, I think it was, and got shit for it. He's the defensive player of the year. And I compared him to Giannis because Giannis, I think, is in the conversation in second, and AD's just been better.
Yeah.
AD, his ability to also do the wing stuff defensively, and the fact that he can do that while he hasn't, like, Giannis is playing with Brook Lopez, who's also a fantastic defensive player, half of his minutes. AD hasn't even played with Wenyen yet. AD has played 0 seconds with anyone taller than 6'8". Yeah. He's played with a bunch of minutes with LeBron, and that's it. He has played with nobody taller than 6'9". 100% of his minutes have come at center, and he is still able to do wing things. They are playing that kind of like drop coverage Milwaukee system that Darvin learned under Bud a lot, but it's not just the center stuff from AD. And let's be clear, AD has had, like, the teams that the Lakers have played, the schedule so far, it doesn't include Embiid, but other than that, it is basically a who's who of, the big bruising bodies in the NBA. It's Valanciunas, it's Jokic, it's Gobert and Cat. Like, he's playing against some big boys.
Yeah.
So
Zubac,
I think, Zoo, absolutely. Although Zoo was. Wait, was that the game he missed? One game. Was that the game he missed? Because Zoo was the destroyer of worlds, but Zoo had 17 and 16.
Played against Nurkic too.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so the fact that he can do that and can do the wing stuff, I think is what makes him. I think he's the deep. Do I think he's the best defensive player in the NBA? I don't know, maybe, but I do think he's the defensive player of the year so far.
I don't know why he wouldn't be the best defensive player in the NBA. I don't know.
I
why
mean, because like we're whatever 7-8 games in, he might be.
But
right?
like this is what he's always been capable of. Like this is what's driven me insane when he wouldn't play center.
But his question would be, and frankly, what your question has been the last couple of weeks is the Lakers need to get him some help, because having him play this much at center, maybe, not definitely, but maybe has taken a physical toll on him, because and I think it's incredibly impressive that he's been able to do this with his back bothering him. But is the fact that he's having to wrestle with Gobert and Nurkic and Jokic for 33 minutes a night, does that have any impact on the status of, his body and his injury?
Yeah, I think that's fair to be nervous about. I do think like part of the reason why I would like the Lakers to make the trade for Miles Turner is so that like you can still have this version of AD when he and Turner aren't out there together, and then when AD and Turner are out there together, you can. I mean, the paint will just be no man's land. Like I don't even know how you try to get into the paint against those two. And then when AD is off of the court, you don't see the drop off like that. Like historically, since LeBron has gotten here, the most useless the Lakers look, the most helpless the Lakers look, is typically when LeBron sits down. But so far this season, just based on what I've seen, it's been when AD sits down that like they look like at their worst when they're hoping that Damian Jones can walk and chew gum at the same time, or that they're hoping that when Gabriel, it sucks to say it, but it's a tough love thing. That's how I was raised. I'm gonna call it like I see it. And Damian, you've been really bad. Like no Fortnite until you make one alley-oop dunk. But would you agree though that I think so, like when the Lakers have looked at their worst, it's been when AD wasn't available. Like that's
yes.
when they
I know
I
do agree with that. I think LeBron is still the team's best player, but I think that, and this is such a weird thing to say, but because of how the roster is constructed, I think LeBron is more replaceable than AD, even though LeBron's not at all replaceable.
Yeah.
I just think that like the only other functional big guy on the Lakers roster, and he's not even a functional big guy. The only other guy that can functionally do big man things on the Lakers roster other than AD is LeBron.
Oh, well.
Is LeBron. Like,
yeah, I mean, like, Gabriel hasn't been bad. Like, you hate Gabriel. What did Gabriel do to you? Like, what? Like,
Wenyen Gabriel stole my girlfriend in 3rd grade.
It would make sense.
I'm finally able to admit it now. No, I don't hate Wenyen Gabriel.
You hate Wenyen Gabriel? You should. You guys should see the
Gabriel.
slacks that Aaron will post. We're like, man, Gabriel's played really well so far this year, and Aaron in Slack is just like, fuck that dude. It's like, what? That seems really personal.
That is not a real thing. Look, the man when he may have still lived in the Sudan at that point, but in 3rd grade he took my actually I don't think Wenyen Gabriel wasn't born yet when I was in 3rd grade.
Yeah, I know.
But he stole my girlfriend in 3rd grade, and I still look, Wenyen's fine. I just don't. He is a big man on this roster.
Mm-hmm.
And he's 6'9", but like it's LeBron, like it's AD, which is why in the game that when AD didn't play, and a lot of people were wondering why, myself included, why the first game that Russ went to the bench or came off the bench, why there wasn't a stagger or more of a stagger between him and LeBron. And I think the answer to that was that LeBron was like basically the only, I mean, Damian Jones, sure, but like LeBron had to play minutes as a big guy. And so that kind of diminished the time you could have him off with Russ on. So I do not hate Wenyen Gabriel. That is not a fair characterization.
I mean, it's crazy, you guys. You should see the things he says about him. It's wild.
So to put a bow on it, I kind of do agree with you that just because there are even fewer options, for what AD does. I do think that AD, he's not the best player. LeBron's the best player, but AD might be the most important player.
Mm-hmm. You said you had something for me on the Lakers.
Oh, yeah. No, I just wanted to, because I was listening to a bunch of, I listen to a million shows and, watch a lot of basketball. And I'm fascinated also because it's the team of my youth. I am fascinated by what's going on with the Warriors right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
more losses than the Lakers.
Yeah, they're 3-6, I think it is, and have lost 4 games in a row.
Probably going to be 3-7 because Ingram is coming back and they're sitting all their guys.
Yeah, and so I think it's a James. I mean, the Warriors starters have been the best 5-man unit in the NBA, and they're still 3-6, and as you say, are going to be 3-7 after tonight. And the James Wiseman stuff is so fascinating to me, and the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because it gave me flashbacks to my time in Portland and Greg Oden. And
Greg Oden was at least good, though. Wiseman hasn't looked good ever.
Wiseman is Greg was good when he could play, which was very. But the reason why is because both of them felt. It seems from the outside with Wiseman, because I don't know, but definitely with Greg, felt so much pressure to live up to their lofty draft status. And Greg had KD drafted right after him. Greg didn't play his rookie year, and KD was already scoring 20 a night as a rookie. Wiseman played some his rookie year, but then didn't play his second year. And while he didn't play in his second year, the guy drafted before him, Anthony Edwards, and the guy drafted after him, LaMelo Ball, became stars. And it just feels like and they're both incredibly talented. Greg and Wiseman are both incredibly talented, and because their body has failed them and because of all the pressure, I'm wondering, and I was the first dude, I colonized Wiseman Island, but it just feels like it kind of at this point feels like a lost cause due to injury and due to just the weight of the world on both of them. It just feels, and I hope it's not for Wiseman because he seems like a good kid. I don't know him at all, but he seems like a good kid. And you can see flashes of all the talent, but it's starting to feel like a lost cause. And in a macro sense, and as it relates to the Lakers, the Warriors doing this 2 timeline thing, yes, they won a title last year, but the development thing, it's just not working. And if James is going to play, right? If James Wiseman is going to play minutes that he has not earned, why is Jonathan Kuminga not playing? There's something going on in Golden State, and if the Lakers win tonight and if the Warriors lose tonight, the Lakers are favored. The Warriors are not favored. The Warriors weren't favored before everybody was sitting. So now that everybody's sitting, they definitely are not going to be favored. The Lakers are going to be ahead of the Warriors. And it is such a stark turnaround from opening night when everything looked great for the Warriors and the Warriors are just going to take off and everything looked terrible for the Lakers and the Lakers are going to be a disaster.
Close. that game was relatively close for a little bit and then it wasn't. It was close because Clay and Steph didn't make a 3-pointer in the first half, and then they made 3-pointers. It wasn't close anymore.
So I just think, like, what is going on with the Warriors is fascinating to me.
This is one, and I don't have obviously as much intel on the Warriors as I do on the Lakers, but it feels to me like one of those situations where there's a lot of pulling in different directions, a lot of rowing in different directions, where I'm sure there were people in the organization who would rather do right by Steph and win now. And I'm sure there were people probably closer to Joe Lacob who, wasn't there when they drafted Steph. Steph isn't a Lacob guy. Like, this is the thing that I found really interesting in this, in the way that they're talking about this dual timeline thing that they're trying to balance. Is would they be doing this dual timeline thing if Joe Lacob had drafted Steph? I don't think they would be. And I think, with Wiseman, that is somebody that Lacob had a hand in drafting. That is somebody that
you know what it's reminiscent of, to keep bringing this back to the Lakers?
Yeah.
It's reminiscent of June's like obsession with Bynum. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I also think too, like, especially with older owners, in Jim, I wonder how old Jim is compared to Joe Lacob. I would imagine they're relatively close in age.
I think Lacob's younger, but probably not by.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not by that much.
But I think like older owners, they see the 7-footer with all of the talent in the world, and they're saying, "Yeah, that's our next ticket. That's got to be our guy." And what we're learning though is that like the sport has evolved, and actually Kaminga looks more traditionally like somebody who feels like the next face of.
This is such an interesting. So here's what I don't get: like whatever Kaminga is or is not doing that we don't see.
Yeah,
that has him getting all these.
They
DNP
need a
CDs.
wing too. Like
I don't know what
they lost Otto Porter and they didn't replace him, and they aren't giving Kaminga a chance to fill that. It's
and
weird.
I don't think at this point he is a wing. I think at long term they want him to be a wing, but he isn't yet.
Yeah,
but whatever we don't see
4.
Kaminga doing or not doing off the court or in practice, whatever has him getting DNPs, we are seeing what James Wiseman is doing, and he is like actively detrimental every time he comes. So like we're seeing him in real NBA games.
Yeah.
So
absolutely fair. Yeah.
What does Kaminga have to do to get I mean, he'll probably play tonight, but and if you want to do the
what happens if he plays
never
tonight?
worked.
It's
never worked.
Wiseman doesn't, and they win.
Well, and it's not just like, oh, it's been
he
a
gets
rough
benched
stretch.
for showing up.
They have lost to on this road trip Charlotte, Detroit, Miami, who's good, but
Charlotte without LaMelo, right? Like it's
Correct.
like an incredibly bad Charlotte team.
Correct. Detroit, Charlotte,
yeah,
Miami, who's good but hasn't been good this year, and Orlando. 0-4 on that road trip.
Yeah,
and they're going to get their doors blown off tonight. 0-5. I mean, look, New Orleans is good, but like, and especially BI coming back, but that's the trip. It's not like you went to Milwaukee and what Chicago's fine, Cleveland, right?
Yeah,
you're not going through the juggernauts of the East here,
right? Yeah,
it's something.
I've always thought,
why not play Kaminga if you're gonna gift Wiseman minutes? Okay, it's gonna be about development. When we get to the playoffs, fine, right?
Yeah.
Fine. Like our starting 5 is going to play and they're going to be the destroyer. Fine. Then why not Kaminga also?
Yeah.
It sounds weird there.
Yeah. I mean, there are some kind of whispers out there that Kaminga isn't like as committed to basketball, or there's some
Stephen
whispers
A talks about him showing up late.
Bunch. Like there's some of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you still got to get something out of the guy,
or trade him.
Yeah, or
if he's not going to play, trade him and get some help, because the Warriors
they need it.
An abomination.
They really actually. I think it's one thing to have the best lineup in the league, and then to go like anything other than that lineup is bad.
They go like yesterday. It's like, all right, so the starters are in. You're gonna get up 8 or 10 or 12, and then the bench comes in. And you're like, well, this is fucked. It's not, you can't, the Warriors have to win games twice or 3 times or 4 times.
Yeah. Yeah. And playing extra games with an older core like that is tough. And I know Clay has gotten a lot of the attention for, for how he looks coming off of the 2 injuries and stuff. But I think the bigger issue to me is a more foundational one. And I know this is going to shock people that I'm here talking about foundational organizational issues, but like if your organization isn't all rowing in the same direction, it makes it really difficult to succeed at the level that NBA teams have to succeed at now. We talk about this all the time. When we talk about the success that the Lakers have had historically, and the first thing you always come back to is that was a very different league, and this is the most competitive the NBA has ever been. And if your organization isn't united behind that one goal, and like, it's one thing to disagree on what people think they need to succeed now, right? Like that, no organization is going to be universally aligned on every single topic.
Sure.
But big time macro goals of competing now and trying to compete now moving forward, that's very different. And I think with the Warriors, what we're seeing now, and I think their roster is very representative of it, is an organization that isn't necessarily on the same page on a macro level, and that needs to change.
Right. So I would be quick to like blame Kerr for the Kuminga stuff and the Wiseman stuff. But to be fair, I don't know what percentage of that is, or how much of that is his decision, or how much of that is management / ownership influence.
Yeah.
But it's not working. And by the way, and here's the part of it, right? Like, if you're just going to develop,
thing if Kerr was a bad coach, but he's not a bad coach. Like,
if you want to just develop guys, right? And this is true of any NBA team. This is true of the Lakers also. If you want to just like spend time developing, that's fine. And the Warriors have a proof of concept that this group can win a title. They did it last year. But the West is so good, and not even just the West, the NBA is so good.
Yeah.
And so competitive, but the West in this case is so good that, like, are the Warriors going to miss the playoffs because they're wasting minutes on Wiseman and maybe Kuminga? No, probably not. But the West is too damn good to, like, fuck around and find out, right?
Right.
They could fuck around and find themselves in the play-in because they don't, they waste another 10 games and say, like, all right, we're trying this, before they figure out we can't do this anymore. The same, to be fair, the same is true of the Lakers in the trade talks and all of that. Although the Lakers are certainly on an uptick right now. But the point is, the West is so good that the difference between, and look, the Warriors were a 3 seed last year and proved that they can win without having home court all the time and all of that. But the West is so good. Each spot down in the standings, God forbid anybody gets into the play-in, that's obviously, you could be one and done in those cases. Or each spot makes your path more difficult. So all of this materially impacts your chances of winning.
Yeah.
Are the Warriors going to miss the playoffs? I know. Are the Warriors going to be fine in the playoffs? And should they be favored probably in every series? Yes, probably. But all this fuck around and find out. Yeah, you may find out and find yourself in 6th or 7th, and that makes your path materially more difficult because the West is just too damn good.
Yeah, yeah, and that's, by the way, and before we see how some of these other league-wide issues play out, where all of a sudden, if things go poorly enough in Brooklyn, do they break it up, and do they send Kevin Durant somewhere? And now. If you're Golden State and you're like, well, I can talk myself into being a 7 seed and still succeeding, and then all of a sudden you face off against Kevin Durant and a 2 seed or a 1 seed, like, yeah,
right.
That stuff matters.
Well, and here's, look, I can't talk about trades and stuff specifically, but one of the, I'm bringing this full circle, one of the parts of the Kyrie stuff is he's a free agent after this year. So how does that impact whatever Brooklyn decides to do with him, with KD, with whoever else now? And it's interesting, why is Brooklyn so committed to him? Like, he's not in the long-term plans anyway. It appears from the outside he's not in the long-term plans. Because if he was, you extend him. Yeah. And if he's not in the long-term plans, why spend so much energy on all of this?
Because he's talented. Like,
he's damn good.
That's
he's a damn good basketball player.
It's a sad answer. It's a frustrating
answer. And another question we
answer.
don't know from the outside, I don't know, at least. I'm not going to speak for anyone else. I don't know the answer to how much of his stuff is still tied to the KD stuff, right? And their friendship and their wanting to be together and work together and play together and whatever. Yeah. Because KD didn't exactly distance himself.
Yeah.
in Shoot Around Today or on Twitter. So I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. But how much of Brooklyn's willingness to put up with all of this is still tied to KD, much like it's been for the last however many years. And is KD still that guy? Is he still so good that it's worth all of that? I mean, KD's been damn good, but
yeah. It's funny. It kind of reminds me of, do you watch the Love is Blind on Netflix? Have you ever heard of it? It's this stupid, I've heard of it.
I have heard of it. I've never watched it.
These people, like, they meet each other. They never meet each other face to face. They meet each other in these pods, and they have conversations about life, and they decide that they're in love with each other. And
it's a dating show?
Yeah, well, they
Okay.
eventually they get married, they get engaged
Wait, what?
without ever seeing each other.
Hell nah. I'm too
And the whole
shallow for that. Hell
yeah,
nah.
well, apparently me too. And so so the premise of it though is that, like, you know, if you fall in love with the person, that like the looks aren't eventually going to matter, which again is just a really flawed premise.
Excuse me?
It's the kind of thing that, like, you tell like 23-year-olds and like, oh my god, that's so pretty. Yeah, that's how this works.
Looks will
And it's,
fade.
no, that's not.
Sure.
But like, what you see over the course of all of these shows is these couples like try to convince themselves that they did actually fall in love, and they refuse to, like,
We fell in love in like 4 days.
yeah, it was like, yeah, it's like I think it's over a series of like maybe a week or a couple weeks.
Oh,
But
okay, fine.
yeah, but like, essentially one of the central issues in the shows is none of these people want to admit that they were wrong. You know, like, they don't want to just come out and say like, yeah, this isn't working, and I'm sorry, we're not doing this. And I feel like that's kind of what we're seeing here with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, where like everybody else is saying like, man, we've been watching, this is not working. Kevin, just get out, just stop. Ask for them to trade Kyrie.
But
Ask
the
for a
same could be
trade for
true of the
yourself.
Nets, right? Like, the
Right,
Nets
well-
can say this ain't working. We got to do something.
Right. And but yeah, I just think here with Kevin and with Kyrie, like those two specifically, because that's the partnership, right? That's the partnership
Yes.
that all this was built on.
Yes.
It's pretty clear Kyrie isn't meeting Kevin halfway. He's not as committed to basketball as Kevin
Are you
is.
telling me that relationship isn't 50-50? Is that what you're telling me?
Oof, man. And yeah, I think Kevin just needs to like
As the
acknowledge,
divorce guy.
yeah, this was a big mistake. This is not somebody I should have tied my career to.
This is true of, I don't know if I said this last night on a show somewhere, but this is true of not just players, because you're right. Like, they put this together, or not they, KD put this together.
Mhm.
But the same is true of organizations and GMs. And it is not, in my experience, and it doesn't matter, basketball, football, whatever, it doesn't matter. It is not what, like, making, and the reason I say this is full circle, because I can bring this back to what we were just talking about with Wiseman and the Warriors. What gets GMs fired, or coaches, but GMs specifically fired, is not making a bad pick. Right. And if we call KD
Yeah.
the GM in this, like,
Mhm.
attaching yourself to Kyrie is not what gets you, he's not getting fired, but that is not what gets you in trouble or get you fired if you're the GM. Making a bad pick happens all the time.
Yeah.
Trying to justify it for years and years and years after that, making sure that that person plays when they don't deserve it, giving them an extension when they don't deserve it. Like, the justification of trying to make sure that your bad decision isn't a bad decision and just extending it over and over and over is the problem. You make a bad pick, you cut bait. Okay, it didn't work. Be done with it.
Yeah.
Trying to justify it with playing time and contract resources, that's what really gets you in trouble.
Yeah, I agree. The Lakers should trade Russell Westbrook. All right, that's going to do it for this. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of The Hook.
We were doing so well. We were doing so well.
Look, man, you hire the
People are going to listen to this, and I'm going to have to go to the game tonight and have people look at me crazy. I didn't say that. I do think the best path forward is probably trading.
Still a
Russ,
trade,
but
yeah.
I didn't say that.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of The Hook. And this week's episodes here on the Silver Screen and Roll Podcast Network. I am Anthony Irwin. That is Aaron Larsoul. Jesse, I agree. I did get him. I got him quite well. I'm very proud of myself. I'm going to go pour myself a nice tall cocktail to give myself a high five.
Look at this. Faithful. Niners faithful. Look, now for all the Lakers fans that are Rams fans, now I'm giving you my Niners kicked you. I went to the doubleheader. I did the doubleheader. I went to SoFi and then had the Lakers game after that. And my Niners kicked y'all ass again, except when it matters in the playoffs.
My Vikings are 6-1, sir. We'll talk to you guys next week.